We have two more guests who will be joining shortly. One of them is Mr. Robert, who is co-founder of XLSA and Infix Systems, pioneering AI solutions in health diagnostics and enterprise efficiency. Then we have Mr. Raza Sufera, Director of Pakistan Software Export Board, leading national events in export growth, industry facilitation, and policy. I didn't know you were here. Thank you so much for coming here and taking out your time. I'll start with Ali Malik, with you. As you know, with global cybercrime, these losses projected to hit around $10.5 billion by 2026. Where does Pakistan stand in terms of digital defense, and are we equipping our local tech ecosystem to be secure?
Hello. So basically, the answer is a bit complex. It's basically a yes and a no and a maybe. And Pakistan's ecosystem is nascent. It's coming up and it's doing very, very, very low. As per the conflict with India, we've just seen that on a state level, we're quite capable of not just defense, but offense in cyberspace. But coming to the startup angle, as it is nascent, I believe that the current trainings and the current implementations are good from an industry standpoint, but need to evolve for the future. So everybody wants to talk about certifications and ISO implementations and data centers and firewalls. But as far as I know and see, I think I look towards the future, which some are actually doing with blockchain implementation and a couple of compliance startups. What about AI-based firms? What about next generation quantum computing that might break current encryption? Nobody's thinking about that. And I mentioned that specifically because we're in a hub where we're in between multiple regional powers, China, India, and as we've already seen, there's a lot of interest in what we do. So I think that a lot of very good and interesting things are being done to help startups in the current policy, especially TTS telecommunication policy for I think it was 2023 to 2026. That was actually quite brilliantly done and very well implemented. And helping startups grow and understand in that sort of an environment is something the state could actually help with. Helping train cyber warfare for cybersecurity teams, right? Giving them free internships, stuff like that in new startups coming up through vertical centers such as this, the NIC, others across Pakistan, whether it's public or private, right? So these things could be done. They're very low level things to implement. They'll have a huge impact. So I think that for expansion into the global sphere, as well as the current state of technology, Pakistan is doing well for what it has. And I think there's a huge capability that Pakistan can ensure its startups get when going for the next steps in the revolution. Thank you.
I would like to call upon Mr. Raza Sufera. Yes, going ahead. Mr. Sufera, I would like to start with you. As you know, Pakistan's IT export reached nearly $2.6 billion last year. If that's a fraction of our today, what specific new policy or initiative is being designed to scale this figure to $5 billion plus in the coming year? And how can young startups play a role in that?
Thank you. I was not expecting question immediately because I even asked, so I think the other panelists could be given the answer, but good to see everyone and sorry for being late. But the the question is around the figure of $5 billion. And while we do understand today the actual exports are more than one. So secondly, the way we are trying to work out the last diagnosis, the way we have been asked by the Prime Minister and from all the relevant quarters, the leadership, the key decision maker, that whatever we need to do, whatever intervention we are proposing, that need to be KPI based, against the $15 billion mark in next 5 years. So we set up with different stakeholders, we try to understand $15 million. If we are going to take the base figure of $2.2 billion and have an estimated of around 600,000 HR in the whole sector today. 600,000 includes freelancer as well, IT professional as well, the startup companies, everything. But to go to $15 million in next 5 years, the number one question is the HR, the capacity. And do we have them? Let me quote a couple of figures here around out of that slide deck, which is always coming back to us, and we are repeatedly asked to the same slide as started because of Prime Minister and everyone. And we got a good consultant, so I'm sitting on board as well to help us understand that how we can translate that into a $15 million program. The speed of the basket development between the number one in more side deck of the whole strategy framework. So to go to that $15 million, what we have been asked by the leadership to focus 4 key areas. I am now just talking about sustainable development. We need to produce more freelancers, more product-oriented resources. We do need service-oriented resources, but the combination of there and all the tools can be on way, which is good. And that's kind of a 30,000 feet view of the whole scenario. The situation, if I look from my desk, so I am working with the student capacity development for the last 3 years. I have been looking at policy area for since 2018, the post-COVID growth, during COVID, whatever 47% growth, we posed as part of that policy, policy driving team, where we were trying to understand the and the number one business is landing out of the way, where Indian converting growth, the business of diverting in touching on and stuff. Now, for these 5-7 years trend, when we analyze whatever is happening for last 12 months and what would be happening in next 6 months, the situation is very, let me use the term scale. I would like to justify the stance here with analysis which we have been trying to do on the data. Data says that like 90-95% we are services oriented export companies. We are not product oriented. We don't have vision like Shalom have, and they can input to one program, they can go for other, they can have some couple of years patient to develop something and then go for the revenue profitability. The 90% services oriented companies are actually having always they are getting the business. They are getting business 57% out of US. Whenever I will be interacting to US tax, they will tell me there are 3 biggest players in US. Federal government, provincial government, and then of course MNC, Google, Microsoft, they have. We are the least registered vendor. If we count us there, that was the number question. So it means we are getting second and third and fourth and lower, but how we need to enable ourselves to develop and convert ourselves into product-oriented resources. That's the number one. Whenever I sit with a CEO of Islamabad, and I talk about the skills and the resources, the number one worry is that from that easy money to go to that hard journey, if it's day zero, that's target. So we missed a lot of pains. Nisha said we have been behind. We missed the tradition of the emerging technologies or whatever you call it. So this AI wave, I think that is again everyone is standing on that zero down, and we have to have wasted all the competitors. The more we can focus and we can develop our capability in converting ourselves into those skill products, skill resources, that can be a thing. Our way forward.
What do you think when foreign investors start looking at Pakistan? What are the things that actually they might be the areas people want to do business there?
I think we are having Stalin and Shahrukh and individuals from the who are actually running the business and who understand the figures, the term sheets, and then those term sheets would be put in front of the investor how they would react. The I always make a careful while giving a deep analysis, just keeping the emotion one side, but also the hard reality on the other side. That what is our best we would be able to put in front of the investor? Even if Saudis came to the city, they came here, they are here, and we requested everyone to develop the pitch deck and bring to the Saudis to tell us what they need in terms of investment. So I think we need to work a lot on this side. We need to understand where what is going. We need to understand why there is a news about team exiting, but there is a competitor which is turning into profit. We do have some other case studies, but in terms of the investment, of course, the one thing which does the rest of the world is our HR, our talent, which is there, and we are working around, with a lot of intervention on the HR. That's what government is taking care of. But on the other side, when you are going to sell yourself, the government can provide you the space and everything, branding. But if you haven't invested some a good amount of money in your own collector, that cannot help us scale the capacity development initiatives. So to sell yourself is the best thing which you guys we have to really think about it. I have been very careful, frankly, but the kind of collectors we look at, the kind of analysis we are doing, for the couple of one of the big four good analysis for us, especially not very good in terms of selling our stuff. I think we need to work on this whole thing.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to and they should know these things. Whenever there's a done in the market, what are the things that they should actually look for? Now I'll move towards Mr. Basil. So the global AI race is accelerating and Pakistan now launching its first national AI policy talk. What's the one thing you need to get right to actually compete at a global level?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk on this topic. I've been working with AI since 2019, and we are a product company, not backed by any investors. We are a successful business, and I've been involved in the policy making with government on the national AI policy. The main problem is not only the policy side and regulatory side. The main thing is the main problem or the main threat that is coming towards all of us is what Raza actually mentioned, is that AI is going to take over the services industry. And we need to shift the parameter towards the products. And the reason US may or बाकी countries may, specifically being in the US, आपको बहुत ज़्यादा products मिल जाते हैं, उसकी वजह ये उनका failure ratio of product भी बहुत ज़्यादा है. So I know कि हम लोग की अपनी कंपनी के अंदर हम लोगों ने 4 projects जो है products के ऊपर शुरू किए हुए होते हैं research के ऊपर, और 10-20 million average हमारी annual burnout हो रहा है on the side. लेकिन no company in Pakistan, no business in Pakistan can burn excessive amount into research, क्योंकि आपको research करके पता लगता है कि आपका ये product successful होगा या नहीं होगा. Most of the companies, even 95% companies of Pakistan, are in the survival mode कि बस service दो पैसे दे दो, that's the pure business. Safe side. ठीक है? Product is not a safe side, product risk side. US में, so the government needs to take initiative. I was sitting with Mr. as well previously. We were having a discussion कि भाई आप लोग अगर research funds नहीं दोगे, ठीक है, R&D पूरी दुनिया में R&D हो, आप R&D फंड नहीं दोगे कंपनीज को, तो कंपनीज अपने पास से कितना बर्न कर लेंगी. सो यही होगा, 5% कंपनीज कर लेंगी हमारे जैसी, वो सक्सेसफुल भी हो जाएंगी, उनके पास प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट अच्छा होगा. 95%, अच्छा मजे की बात ये है कि जो 95% कंपनीज दे आर गिविंग सर्विसेज, ऐसा नहीं है कि इनके पास प्रोडक्ट्स नहीं. All of them will be having a shelf product or one नहीं multiple. So there needs to be a whole ecosystem diversion जिस तरफ ये जाएगा, तो we'll be safe. वरना skill set देने का बाकी चीजें देने का कोई फायदा नहीं है. बहुत ज़्यादा चीजें AI बहुत quickly cover up कर रहा है. It's going in the craziest direction I've seen. मतलब ये ऐसी चीज है बहुत अच्छे बाद जिसका impact horizontal भी है और vertical भी. इससे पहले जितनी भी चीजें थी या वो हॉरिजॉन्टली इम्पैक्ट करती है या वो ये दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज इम्पैक्टिंग ईच एंड एवरी इंडस्ट्री फ्रॉम एजुकेशन टू आईटी टू ट्रैवल एजेंसी टू रेस्टोरेंट एनीथिंग इम्पैक्ट ईच एंड एवरी डोमेन इज disrupting. So we need to see that and we need to prepare accordingly.
In ourselves, yeah, otherwise our jobs will won't be.
Exactly.
Anyone's to share the people.
Oh. Thank you. Right, so, one of the things, that was shared by was an expert inside the president initiative in the market, that it hasn't. So, one of the points raised was that AI is seeing more than the stuff that we could see, honestly projecting and intelliging. A lot of service people are going to be out of jobs. So, a friend of mine is coming up with automated call center software that doesn't require any human being. A lot of people in the West are currently working in call center. Yeah, that's great. And a lot of them are outsourced to India, Pakistan, Vietnam, Thailand. They would be fine. But on the flip side, I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff as well. We could say borders, we could say a lot of them. On the flip side, there's a warning from the cybersecurity concern commission. So, to the point where I stopped taking on new contracts at all because it's my calling. Basically, there are a lot of loopholes tools out there. And what they do is they have a certain frame, a certain template which follow, and certain, how should I say, software versions, certain techniques, stuff like that, and it's ingrained into them. And it doesn't need to be efficient, it doesn't need to be secure, even if you ask them to people have personally tried to have it. It didn't really work out. Usually, OAPs, 10 vulnerabilities like stress. होता ही है non-technical founder who refuses to spend money on coders brings up and have to bring up something. He doesn't believe secure coding is a thing in Pakistan. In the what I see at least, secure coders are not considered as important. But the launch we have, and this has happened in the last 5 years to at least 1,000 different companies to do it easily. Their IP gets stolen simply because the encryption isn't properly done, the data is improperly done. Default username and password that are put in. Very easy to mitigate vulnerabilities that put in by the system. And on what I did, when that IP gets leaked, competitor comes up with a better version, but it's also new. So it's an entire circle that keeps going. So when I talk to people like these, which is going to unify and talk to one of these contracts, is if you buy a keeper, new relation obviously opening up. Right? So I think actually it's very, very important to take the technical aspect of this as very, very serious. It's one of the things that I see not in Pakistan, globally, that nobody seems to understand how efficiency is important. It is from security side from easy to exploit vulnerability. So that was the only one that I wanted to speak with them.
We have Ms. Pulvega, who is founder of Great Meter Systems and Humpire Ventures and Network Innovation. Sorry. Great Worker Systems and Humpire Ventures and Network Innovation and Investor. Building tools for scalability. Thanks so much for being here. As we're talking about AI, we should talk about you and our children. So I'll move towards Ms. Hosea. You have built and backed startups. What's the biggest reason promising Pakistani startups struggling to scale to raise follow-up investment? And what's one fix that would unlock growth? Thank you so much. I think what Bharat was mentioning initially that we have service-based companies mostly they are working towards it. The product development is a very capital intensive, which is like very less likely to be bugs. We have developed four products, which is the whole value chain assessment sector, right? Starting from the production development till bootstrap initially doing investment, SME investing in the area of they still when you go to the when you're working on something which is unique and which is not there already, and you're the first mover in that biggest space. It takes your own time to kind of reach to that certain level. So, for example, we were in one year street market on descriptive focus, and there was no one person who was doing any kind of work in this market. क्योंकि वे जनरेशन को हमारे यहाँ बड़ा सेक्रेट समझा जाता है, बड़ा सीक्रेटिव लिया जाता है। क्योंकि आप अगर जितना उसको खोलेंगे उतनी वो दुनिया आपकी आप blue poster उसके निकलते हैं। So this was the way which we started working on, and we started with 6,000 exams only around 5 years back. Now we have more than 150 million questions online. We have trained more than 7,000 women with us, those who are working remotely with us, professional development in the sector. But again, when it comes to that enabling environment, where you're supposed to go to the next level. So let's say we have raised investment. After that, what is the next level where the government is actually there, where technology zones are there, maybe partial or any other enabling environment where you can actually grow. For example, I went to US on the IBA program, which is the International Research Leadership Program. And I was only one of the most selected fellows. So, वहाँ जाने के जो system है, that system is actually बेशक कोई system starting level पे है या system senior level पे है या state level पे या series level. So that system is actually guiding. It's not about that you have to go and find your own way. आप काम करेंगे या फिर रास्ता ढूंढना. यहाँ पे भी रास्ता ढूंढना है, अपने काम भी दूर करना है, मुझे खाने स्ट्रगल करते हैं वास्तव में बिजनेस बिजनेस भाग तो वो जिहाद कितना हम कर सकते हैं कितनी हमारी एनर्जी है जिहाद करने की जो भी है अदर देन दिस टेक्नोलॉजी पार्ट वास्तव में जैसे आप किसी because we work on digitalization and standardization side of evaluation तो जब आप किसी भी बात आते हैं तो सबसे पहली बात क्वेश्चन AI से हो जाएगा सारा काम So you have not started ABC, you're asking me XYZ can go there. You have to do it. So you have to make it phase wise. It's not a one-step job. You have to use one experiment. I think there needs to be a stepwise approach from the government also, from the organization. But I'm not saying mostly negative things, I guess. Like I think there needs to be a stepwise approach. Plus, there are many who have taken that approach and working with that capacity. maybe first initiative लिया और उसके बाद से काम भी किया. But उससे दूसरा मसला क्या होता है? When you are first mover advantage तो आपके मुकाबले में कौन आ रहा है? So on one side, Punjab Examination Commission is my client. On the other side, Punjab Examination Commission is my competitor. So how do I compete with the government? See, we all talk about private, public-private partnership की बात करते हैं, private sector strengthening की बात करते हैं, women empowerment की बात करते हैं, but we don't need to say that here कितनी हम सबको अगर कितना तो private sector का strengthen और किस तरह से strengthen. So most of the, for example, in case of federal court, for example, in case of Punjab Examination Commission, आप सारे आपके competitor हैं. किस से आप कहाँ लड़ाई करें? तो we need to see कि हमने किस चीज को कैसे rightly use करना है, redirect कैसे करना है, government का क्या करना है, strategy बनाना और उसको implement करना, not कि खुद बनाना शुरू कर दें solutions, just like we all know we come from the lines. This topic.
Thank you so much. There must be a lot of founders जो कि business start करना चाहते हैं, जिसे बहुत जरूरी है picture, because हमें paper में बहुत सी चीजें नजर आती हैं, but implementation इस तरह नहीं होती. Now moving towards you, Ursula, as you are working in the tech sector and we are catering there. So Pakistan has 26 million plus out of school children and low digital penetration in school. What role can ethics startup play beyond digitalization to actually fix their learning experience? And are we solving any real education problems or just fixing it?
Would be, we are trying to not chase trends and actually go for things that make a difference. So currently from our experience, what we have seen is that the issue is not about getting the technology to the students. The issue is about having that basic infrastructure in place for the students to access that technology. So what I mean by that is that we have a great platform that, we're working on, our product, which is, putting STEAM unified, learning platform. Now, the places where we work in, which is like Zara built, when you go to schools over there, the issue isn't about the student understanding what the platform is about. The issue is very grassroots, where the school does not have electricity, or the school wouldn't have computers. They don't have computer labs, or if they do have computers, then they don't have enough computers for all the students. Or they don't have a stable internet, or they might not have internet at all. So this is one of the major issues. The second major issue that we have faced and experienced is about teachers, about the educator. A lot of times, most often, we forget that, teachers are under-resourced, they're underpaid, they're overworked, and we expect them to then go and teach the students, we expect them to teach the students digitization, coding, STEAM, digital safety and security as well, and they themselves have not been trained. So there's a huge gap over there. So unless we really train our educators, then they can't go and teach and train the students. So I think for the next chapter in EdTech should be one where we have more policies, where we keep all of these grassroots problems in mind and address these first, rather than just building on technology. Because there's a lot of technology and a lot of tech products already out there. But in order to implement these, we need to fix these grassroots issues. Thank you so much.
Why do we always talk about school fees? Why are we not talking about getting millions of schools? So just school जा रहा है, वही आपको school में करना है. Why? Because they are unable to create their interest in studies. And जब उनको एक basic interest, it's not about technology work. Basic interest है तो उसको नहीं होगा, कोई बच्चा भी आगे छुट्टी में आ जाएगा. 26 million वाला नंबर बढ़ता है लेकिन we need to make a parallel, activity, parallel, what do you call it? Effort. Those kind of guys. We work on donor driven side. क्योंकि donor driven तो आपको चल रहा है तो आपको कुछ चल रहा है इसलिए हम सुविधा तो donor देता है अगर हमने local dynamics को example dynamics इसमें positive से ठीक तो नहीं हो पाती. Teacher training आपको पूरे site पे होती है किस तरीके से किसके मार्क्स टीचर करनी है वो चीज education ऑफिसर करना है अपने education की training का track on है guide work करना है. And you cannot imagine the level of training they are having. Of course, level of training we are spending billions. What level of training the schools में जाके आपको level नहीं हो. Then what? I have stopped going to panel discussions. When you're talking about the ground campus, I can give you 110% insight past the education sector. They're working in the sector simple learning stars. जब पॉलिसी बनाते हैं स्टेकहोल्डर को साथ में बिठाते हैं जब पॉलिसी बनाते हैं आप लोगों को साथ में बिठाते हैं जिसको आप इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं करते हैं टीचर्स और स्टेकहोल्डर स्कूल नहीं तो आप हाउ डू यू एक्सपेक्ट कि पॉलिसी बनते हैं कि कितना बेहतरीन रिजल्ट आता है उस साइड काम भी सेट कर देते हैं नो एटलीस्ट स्टेप एक्शन we have to understand these things are related and we have to work on these things parallel.
So I just want to be first of all, thank you so very much for bringing this point up. Can you please come to the question? It's very, very important. But yeah, the point you highlighted for the 50 million for not in education, I would actually like to add on that. Everybody wants to focus on, and I think not just from the cybersecurity perspective, or from a tech and general business perspective, nobody focuses on 30, 35 plus people. Okay, everybody wants to focus on the youth, they want to give them an opportunity, enable certifications for all the people. There are other people, so I don't want to take names, I know people who spend money to get 50-year-old into programs. This can just keep learning for free. Okay, and they do it from I guess from the bottom of their habit. Yeah. So with training institutes, okay, they have 40 students and the students expert was to keep it up. And they make sure that the needy people, the people who is the person. This is an initiative every very important. Everybody keeps saying that there are no jobs, there are no opportunities, but create an environment that you say. And this is the one way people mark up and your rank of kids. If you put it, we should invest in perspective, will it help the next evolution, the next step. I believe that is where Maharaj and that where we are really happy. Everybody, anywhere, so pretty much every week, startup meet to get for Pakistan last year and the previous year. We get everybody speaks about teenagers, both young adults, both under 30s. If you look at any people startup which competition will tell you that. You have a nation. So my question there is, are people who cannot really say or are older than the age limit, are they not meeting the learning? So yeah, from an education perspective, I think this is a very important point. It can be very important. And it's something from so I look at the Israeli point of view very carefully, right? So they dominate cybersecurity, and it's one of the reasons why they dominate technology. It's also one of the reasons why they dominate business. They dominate business because they give each other a lot of understanding, and they dominate to an extent. Why can't we do that? It's simple because I believe somebody asked me once, what is the one thing you like to change? Well, look at the chances of the industry, give each other favors, and build their own capacity before the next one. And this, when they will examine basically, this is very, very important. We're building upon that, so this is the rest of the population who might be uneducated, but they might have ideas or insights and it will not. Like, I don't want to go into too many personal details, but very, very soon, everybody in Pakistan and India are going to find out that guards and PMs and whatever, they know more than most senior officers because they tend to be in rooms and they're not seen. He had to educate those people who have that intelligence, who have that understanding, and giving them an opportunity to shine, would actually celebrate whatever we're going to achieve. And I don't want to get too extended.
I just want to quickly add to both now and to me. So she talked about everybody, sort of working in their own vertical, their own cycle. And I think that's also a big inherent to our direct investment. I spent a lot of time, in fact, I went to be Dutch in Australia and Pakistan. And what I see there in the ecosystem is that they have such a strong feedback loop between, startup founders, the government, policymakers, which we really lack here. Because although everybody's doing great work, but they're doing it in parallel with real to no overlap. And I think if we all strive to change that in whatever little capacity we have, then we can actually go towards making a difference.
The feedback is, these are effort from various different lenses because some schools go over as a business can start earlier. We're not actually educating children, we're just like, sorry, missions are it, we have these much children. Skills are being paid, nothing at all. So if we have teachers here where we put up integrated, so I feel like it's a collaborative effort between all the stakeholders to make our children move forward. Now I move towards Shahrukh. So Mr. Shahrukh, health tech is a notoriously tough sector. Where does Pakistan stand today in the global AI landscape? And what areas are we realistically positioned to be or grow in?
Okay, thank you for having me here. So the thing is that being an entrepreneurship in Pakistan is just a very second one is product development on the second level versus service. Service is not a shame, but generally people feel considered with building product. So we are superior, like those about the services. Those services also the part of those business that's hard. Or even on healthcare, like if you're working in the healthcare, that is even the hardest. Or where they are regular raising one like FDA and there are other things because where the patient like when like then thing with it. So I would just give, very quick when I came in this business, so I had some volunteer here. So actually, to Desi man, I've been in healthcare for more than 7 years. So that's why, I lost my knowledge there. You can see my face, like diabetic, hypertension, in the age of 34, 35. So that's,
We can see your work.
yeah, thanks so much. So first, really, like, you understand, there's a certain, definitely, there's a part of development, patients. And in healthcare, this journey is even longer. And before, I also would like to add that, what the challenge is that we are having, we are facing in Pakistan, by the people at this moment, like, we are three businesses, one is the healthcare, that AI-based diagnostics, helping the radiologists with the 32% more accurate, in the world for management, in the cancer diagnostics, like, system that we, now we are in the US, other businesses in the industry operations, we already serving the all MNC locally and globally. Third is also like serving the services. The problem with the Pakistan is, we talk about the numbers, like, we have these numbers from these 90 sectors. Generally, most of these numbers are coming through, freelancing, we call it, digital skill set we are selling, right? And on the other side, if we look to for labor income, so like what would they have? Like what strategy they place their people in a good position globally, because that is the marketplace. At this moment, as we have said, like we are getting second or third tier work in Pakistan. Because we don't have any strategy placement, unfortunately, globally. Here, I would say, again, with my adding part is a little bit outdated. Apologies for that because I think for 4 years, I'm totally disconnected from Pakistan ecosystem. Just talking about this, I think as per my data, the stretch activity is my data by 2022. I'm not sure if anything changed after 2022. So first thing is that, like, for example, like we said, PhD and for studying, then wherever we go, you have to come Pakistan, so Pakistan, even we don't have the jobs for them, right? Even like if these people, if we allow them and stay outside and get some strategic position in some purchases your good companies, just like anything else, because now they are in a good position in the good companies, now they're serving back to their country. Second, and like last year we were talking about great great like the capital people like her and she was from Australia and she said so capital like people if they are leaving the country so they are doing somewhere where they are seating in the marketplace. So they can be in some strategic position someday and then they can bring the business toward the Pakistan. I think these are the negatives we all talk about, like in our system. If someone is going outside, we should work as a government, as an ecosystem, we should make some connection between them. Because like I am capital, if I go outside, so there I will all struggle just to settle myself into my career. So if we connect them with your ecosystem, they will strategy level 10 year, 25 year, all these brains, that's the right way. So so they can get connected with the partner ecosystem and have it definitely track the tier first is they start coming in Pakistan. So this is something like we are usually landing. Other thing is that most product obviously investors because the Alexa we already have done multiple rounds. So why is Alexa and many companies like Middle Tech and the high value product out there, available in the US for European companies. So because I think by 2018 till 2022, we struck the big of our ecosystem marks on the world. As Pakistani company to raise money from, the US market and the other market, and we were struggling the reason that the first reason was definitely the credibility that the Pakistani company that foreign investors they don't trust, like in the Pakistani, they say well, one day here the attack will set the design and if attack it like all the money will be vanish. Other thing is that our policies, when investor invest in Pakistan and after some time the profit you want to take it back. So definitely there's a lot of challenges in our like policies which is very hard for them. Third thing is that like as an investor, he invested in my businesses in the local ecosystem, invested in $100,000 and the dollar rate value is 100 rupees per dollar. And one year I worked very hard as an entrepreneur, and in this 1 year, like I got 50% profit. So his first I converted to 100,000, he converted it to 8 crore. So when I worked very hard and made his 8 crore in 1.8 crore, right? And when I tried to return it, so the now dollar gave me 175. So instead of getting 100,000, you will get 90,000, then 85,000 back. So beware of the mistake. He invested, I worked hard, we did business, right? And he took back the money, definitely it was very good. So this is the reason, just because of these policies, companies just like the Alexa, they're all going outside the revenue money there. So I think that the few thoughts like we have to connect particularly if we want to do something strategy. I think it won't happen maybe tomorrow, maybe next month. So if we take some strategic decisions, even with the trust was for the product, scale of the product, and investment is the key. But unfortunately, in Pakistan, there is lack of those such as investors. If there are few where they ask you, give us everything against over this planning. So this is also unfortunate because they don't know the real value of the company or the tech businesses. So now come to the healthcare yes is the development. The reason is that and when health is concerned, so international, locally, that is different when you go with international, there's a lot of regulatories. So it's not a lot of cost. So the trust, like for example, if we travel in the airplane, the autopilot, like we can travel because we know someone sitting in the cockpit is fine. But as this AI, nobody has this globally a patient going to there are 100 AI, humans. So these are the factors these are investors. They also, have the less faith in the AI particular in the healthcare because we also believe healthcare is very critical. And the last thing, sorry, will not take that much time. The very last thing is that there are very few investors that are going to invest in the healthcare sector. The good thing is the outcome is, very high value. Recently, we raised $1 billion in the US, very handsome, and very handsome like in the company. And as compared to my other company, which is in industry automation, that is also AI product, which is generating very good revenue yearly. But on the other side, that company's valuation is less as compared to my healthcare, which is actually generating almost 0.1% daily revenue, like per total need yearly. So this is the upside of the healthcare. Like if you get successful, then you get a good valuation.
There's a lot to take from your
conversation, and especially for someone who's trying to innovate regulated sectors. Center is really important. It's like one of the top tier things that you should actually consider.
एक
Now-
और मुझे कहना था sorry मैंने mic पकड़ा तो लगा तो बोले the one point which you mentioned that you know service करना चाहिए it's not a shameful thing. Recently I got a chance to look at a checklist. They were ranked around 98, 99 questions for KPMG's regional office, where those questionnaire was if you want to work with them for the services, that checklist was to become compliant. And I wonder how many out of are like we do have 10,000 plus members, 7,000 plus active members in PSCP. Those the 29,000 are I think are necessarily registered ID companies. Out of this data, how much these companies would be able to comply with that? This is the number one question. Now, again, the government is the one part, but on the other hand, how much we're doing the work for the solar cities and getting the money in dollars, how much these companies are open to reinvest themselves to make themselves qualified able as a pre-listed vendor with these organizations. The number one problem is that. And no one is looking at that side. That's a very big problem. One. Secondly, I think even complying with to get listed with this company, even if now it's a product banana. So in the end, the whole transition, whole journey is just taking a pause, reevaluating ourselves, and then redefining our task. That's what I would say.
Waited for quite some time. So, Pakistan is ranked on the top 10 countries in the world in governments, but we want to do great is to lead development. What would it take to that better become
share some insights because I think the whole picture seems very deep. AI and everything. But gaming is a very interesting and evolving industry. I'm sure you guys, if you don't play AE or children or people in the house do, so it's agnostic. It doesn't require any language barrier. It's very intuitive, and that allows this industry to grow. It's I think the biggest industry bigger than entertainment, music combined together. So 250 plus $1 billion. And I think Pakistan is doing pretty well for its size in terms of the market. We will look at it in two parts. The first is Pakistan as a potential market for any big publisher. I represent Tencent Games as one of the biggest companies in the world in gaming, and they look at Pakistan as a big market because of its potential for them to create the mass appeal for the game. So that's where we've seen that a lot of people consume gaming. And when it comes to talent, we've seen a lot of studios emerging, and they've done very successful projects in the services industry. But one of the twists that we have is that if you develop a game, it becomes a product. And this product can be developed by anybody sitting in his house. And for them to develop this, there is of course a need for coherent, approach. This means all the prime stakeholders to come together. And I think there's a lack of structured talent because when you're competing globally, publishing a game and accepting it without a membership or generate revenue, the time to market is a very essential thing. And for that, I think agility is something that lacks in Pakistan. So we need a structured approach towards training people. That's the first thing. I think aesthetics is something that is very important in a game, which is missing generally in the Pakistani audience. I think we need to improve on that as well. Talking about how we can impact this growth Really, I think we need to focus on specific gaming startups that are able to produce a gaming product. And that seems very difficult, but it's very easy. You might have seen some of the children who come to a really small game, which a typical studio might have developed in 10 to 12 days or 15 days. And you just need a bunch of talented people to come together and deliver that project and create a product. So for overall uplifting of the gaming industry, I think the core essence is structured training approach towards the talent. We've seen a lot of talent in Pakistan. Just to give an example, we have a global product which is called Wow. It's World Wonders, where anybody can submit maps in our game. And we set aside $5 million for this globally, and Pakistanis are taking 40% of this. They're one global award, so talent is immense. And this talent needs to be nurtured by structured content that is delivered to them, so that they are able to understand how we talked about in the panel how AI is going to come. I think initially AI is going to assist a lot of people in jumping over the processes and getting that initial burst to quickly enter a market. And that's assisted in terms of reducing the time it takes for anybody to become relevant. So I think if we are there at this point where one of the panelists mentioned that we can be at the starting point when we are at the AI race. This is this is where in gaming we can generally take a very big advantage and make the best of it.
Thanks so much for sharing your insight. And I also got to know that gaming industry is larger than film and human industry. So there is like it's a big industry, and our youth and everyone is so interested. I remember one of my colleagues, he was part of some competition and he couldn't qualify for it because there was bad internet issue in Pakistan. So I think so on a global level, we also need to see that we provide the good internet service because gaming is all about good internet speed. That's how we can really.
There's something called paying in the game. So our internet structures are lacking, but surprisingly, two things from Pakistan have recently qualified for a global event. Considering that the text actions are so faster than others that they've been able to beat that set on moving. So that's something that we have. And I also think that we mentioned about the industry. If you pick the top grossing movie of all time or Avatars combined, it's still less in business than GTA or these games. So it's a very new industry, and a lot of the youngsters need to have maybe curriculum design at the at the bachelor's, or even if they've not done bachelor's, they still become part of this industry. So how do we equip them? That's where a structured approach is required.
So I just want to comment on what I said. Pardon. So as I was saying, there should be an age limit as to when somebody gets an education and goes to both ways. So I used to live in Canada and so over there, even children in that grade 4 or grade 5 used to be able to learn software to game with. And that was not just from government perspective, that was also from private investors who someone started owning the company and he sponsored the entire event. And then here we can put your stuff. And my university offered university to do the same thing. That even here, that's the part is said. So hey, bachelor's will be on platforms, but what about younger? And the thing is, there needs to be a cultural shift. So, from the perspective, because it is about number eight to another game together. Yeah. And the thing is, game can be how very yeah. So, by saying this, and when you want to go out to the street. So, there needs to be a cultural shift, and coming to Charles, whatever Charles said. I have a lot of things to say today, but one of my mentors point is that it was really critical, but I think it's critical. So the point to bring here is look at the Chinese model and the South Korean model, but especially the Chinese model. When I was in the UK, students I used to come over there, they used to tell us, say that we used to sit aside in what we kind of thought. They used to tell us, listen to your new name. And they used to tell you what to do and what not to do to represent China better. And that's actually how the Japanese did it as well, and they got a wonderful international. Our wonderful Prime Minister Shivaji, he said something. He said, "You all are ambassadors of Pakistan. Everybody is a ambassador, right?" So, from an educational perspective, and policy perspective, from the political industry, as well as the government, as well as the prisoner, we should treat ourselves as ambassadors. So, for example, children are really these names. Somebody who knows somebody in Google, Canada, the US, the UK, wherever else, they could say, hey, this is what I saw. And I've seen multiple people from multiple countries do this, right? They promote themselves. So, promoting, because abroad, there is an issue of equality that's there as well. You will feed each other, you will help each other, there will be that, right? So this is the collaboration that needs to happen. So if you see, we'll see many very mild collaboration that can bring out a whole different evolution to the sphere that Pakistan is trying to achieve. And this is what I see that can be learned by the students trying on the NICAT for a whole lot of the people. Right? That's it.
I also think that there needs to be a radical shift in the education system as a whole. Because right now, you know, a person that you know, they join the workforce at maybe 24, right? That's their skill. But if we just take away the traditional system, because now things are moving at such a fast pace, like, you know, AI, maybe now they don't, like, the prerequisite to enter into the job market shouldn't be to have like a four-year bachelor's degree or master's degree. Maybe you should concentrate more on just having skills, which they can then apply and work, so that they can be productive faster and better and younger.
That's,
Or even older people can learn new skills and enter.
yeah, and I feel like that's the important part, because whenever you are opting for a job, your sales manager, your degree seven.
Exactly.
So, thanks very much for saying that. Okay, that's the points, but exactly that's the very not just computer, but in the very beginning, when I got ambushed with the first question. So, I said something that I thought that basically people who are graduating from cybersecurity programs that are under funded free or whatever you want to call it, they should be given internships in such organizations that are startups. One, to get their skill set, two, so they want to give back. Right? Three, they bring the connection. And the networking is four, you basically give them a chance to start in the careers. And I want to talk about data. You know, some of the best, how should I say, cybersecurity people are actually kids, right? Under 13, under 15. Because I don't know, I guess it's a technological thing, maybe they are very, very focused. But it could be something, so if you give digital skills early, you give cyber skills early, you make it game skills early, and you create the atmosphere. I think I will lead to a wonderful solution in the next step, is we want to take over. Yeah.
We have developed parallel systems. So in case primary and everything, there are system bodies who are actually there to basically learning our systems. And then when they come to class 9 onwards to second year, they are getting the exams exactly in the education spec. Right? So there's a complete shift. Article about regular learning as transfer to other children and just spending many of them. 9th to second year that you are there, you have education sectors. Assessment thing shapes the way teachers and teaching instruments are there. If we want that shift to be done in the students' learning, we
you have to see that how to be assessment. It has to be formative, it has to be, summative, or what needs to be done. Care diagnosis are very in advance, improve the learning outcomes. That is one side. Another side, as Shahrukh already mentioned, that we need to have, focus on collective development more than individual. And I think for that collective development, let's say, 6 7 people we are sitting here, we need to maybe connect some of the people with each other and to start with figure out first step. Again, for the career, I had a meeting with the minister. The minister was telling me herself, and she was literally about to drive. They videos and state development side. And these students who became a state developer, again, because I was there as example of the chamber group, हमारे chamber में there is 30,000 members. अगर आपने उनको need assessment के बगैर आपने trainings करवा दी on certain donor driven again. Tons and tons of state development training done unless they are able to implement that in a job, unless they are able to perform that in a job, they are useless. So we need to see again कहाँ से कौन से words को हमने connect करा है उनको. And on a lighter side, as Shahrukh, right? Shahrukh and our hairstyle show that medical side we are gaming certification. What is in that?
Thank you. Compliments for both of us. So एक चीज जो हमने ऑब्जर्व की है वो ये है कि बच्चों में हीलिंग चीज की नहीं है एंड आई थिंक देयर कॉग्निटिव एबिलिटी mostly sensitive जो है बहुत so education education is very important and we recently one of the challenges के employability now which you just raised उसमें हमने अभी NICAT के साथ education training institute के साथ game design का एक course and we went to these places. We had participations from Techno, right? We didn't have a barrier that you to know chemistry and stuff. And we trained these people on designing maps. And eventually, with that skill, they would be able to open up their mobile phone and make maps which would be consumed by people. And these ecosystems that are there, this is TikTok and these they are eventually going to pay back a certain amount of money, similar to gaming as well. So, मेरे ख्याल से education में gamification is a very easy, convenient way of getting people interested. And you started educational maps as well. This way, if you multiply something, then the door opens up, and then you go through something. So this sort of content is eventuality for the future of education. So how about a collaboration discussion on that come together? So that's the point I'm going to run.
Right. So wait, that's a point. So as to your point, very well said. So one thing we discussed in this particular he's right to go. Would you like to? So as the things that AI could be a lot of things. Okay. So one, how needs assessment changing on particular because I can do graphic design, I can do video design, I can do game design, I can do cybersecurity penetration testing. Okay, I like building the products like that. I know I can do, right? They can do this, no code question, second, the world is changing with regards to how the world is. Yeah, so there's a product work week, there's a certain 3-year work week, there's a certain less outside work. So because the schooling was done as far as I know, according to the work hours of kids from the industry level, right? So my question is now this new turn of evolution that's now up, and you're doing the needs assessment. Is schooling going to take hours going to take is the way of schooling itself? Do you think has a chance of evolving.
मेरा बेटा मेरा भी obedient है. I did MBA like in 2011 का age, 2011. So कोई subjects, कोई marketing, कोई company, कोई किताबें. और he did a very good better at university. Alongside, I think we need to understand even research, entrepreneurship, coding, gaming, learning, add the game to it. That has to be done all the time. जब आपकी cognitive skills develop, जब आप metric करिए फिर आप linguistic करिए, and then you are at the stage जहाँ आपने future के लिए कोई एक programming, कोई एक video choose.
And the pretty, sorry, but what generic topics of like maths, biology, computer, data.
And उसको अगर आप बच्चे को career aptitude का या career counseling का या कोई भी ऐसा एक guideline नहीं देते क्योंकि आप किस टाइप से जाने हैं आप किस तरह inclined हो सकते हैं, you're good in gaming or you're good in education or you're good in skill development और किस टाइप का इसको अगर एक पाकिस्तान में कितने बोर्ड हैं educational boards जैसे internationally average फॉलो करते हैं एक बोर्ड है पूरा पूरे में पाकिस्तान में 32
ऐसे फीचर
क्लोजर 32 कोर्स का मतलब है कि आप 32 स्टैंडर्ड सेट कर रहे हैं एंड द यूनिवर्सिटी एंड देन उस सारे स्टैंडर्ड्स को हैदराबाद बात का बोर्ड फेडरल बोर्ड कुमार बोर्ड लंदन बोर्ड दे कांट गेट सम सो वी नीड टू सी कि हमने डेवलप क्या किया कहां से प्रिपेयरिंग वर्क मेथोडोलॉजी देयर इज समथिंग व्हिच वी कैन डू I'm actually writing digital education. We really like product for the digital transformation funds. I'm heading a digital education where we are trying to work on these dots, translate dots connectively, and to know how to make the policy which is digitalization used to know, the technology used to know. From the existing the policies हैं, जो कि change हो रही हैं, उनको कैसे हम When we can see and we can connect the words, we get some super changes. There were these things that we started very early. Once the check out interest or how हमारा तो सिर्फ स्पेल पे हम अगर इस पर ज़्यादा चीज़ आजकल के रीच के ज़माने में और इसमें आप कितना रहते हैं और सेकंड कभी हाँ आप you need to be very kind to those बच्चे जो आजकल के ज़माने में हैं. How do we actually expect from them कि वो ये भी करेंगे while they're not given a clear roadmap, neither the impact, neither I don't understand because for example, you have shallow investments is like here's the startups. Maybe we need to see that how to highlight the local success stories. Right. Maybe we are four success stories sitting here and doing that. Maybe Ali Group and you. Maybe we need to see how to kind of highlight the success stories, local success stories. And secondly, you also need to see how to locally see investment structure. Okay, much helping. मैं एक बड़े इन्वेस्टर हूँ मैं इसमें मेरे को पता जाती पैसे if I want to have an implementing partner in Pakistan मुझे पता नहीं मेरे पैसे कहाँ जा रहे हैं ऐसा लोग मुझे 100 रुपए लगाएगा और 90 रुपए वापस लेके जाएगा उसको पता है we have to see अभी ऐसा see is very these are rather working on this domain इसको थोड़ा सा बेहतर कर सकें या facilitate कर सकें
Also, our image is naturally very blurred. So, वहाँ पर भी talk about
branding को पाकिस्तान में branding soft है जब पहले से बनते हैं stories से ये चीज़ों से आपको आते हैं और तो कहीं से rocket science नहीं है कि soft है ना create that soft.
I agree with your point of view, and we got these schools that teachers start getting an education system. It starts to go to teacher like it is a child. He has a lot of vocabulary. Like start when he has to special behavior, what are that are their instruction. And just around AI progress कर रहा है, I feel like हमें start से ही AI programming, AI engineering, AI teaching, higher education system में add होनी चाहिए.
लोग समझ ही नहीं आते लोग dashboards पे जाके समझ जाते हैं AI engineering people topic.
And our mind is so matured by that time. Now I would like to call on stage Rawalpindi, who is Chairman United's IT Council. A huge round of applause for him.
add something on this topic?
Thank you very much. I'm all. So first of all, it is privileged to sit amongst esteemed panelists and listening to so many vibrant thoughts about the existing issues within our IT infrastructure, education system, and even the societal mindset which we need to progress to have the foreign direct investment in place, which we can empower the desired culture and mindset within our organizations, through which we can propagate success. But one thing which I would like to add here is that whatever our esteemed panelists talk about, I certainly agree with all of them. But most of the areas which we have highlighted right now, we can't have a quick win solution for that. When we talk about having 32 boards in place, so bringing the desired uniformity in the education system, that is something which can't happen overnight. It is going to take time. Moreover, our esteemed entrepreneurs spoke about specifically geared towards the services side of things and focusing lesser on product development. So that is something which is also going to take time. But one thing which I would like to add here is that there is something which we can do from our end and from which we can receive the desired results very quickly. And what that is that, unfortunately, if I talk about the IT realm of Pakistan, within all the organizations, be it multinational or local, the desired culture of empowerment is missing, I must say. The employees, they are specifically working in a US directed approach. They are not thinking out of the box. They are more concerned about how their bosses perceive them. Unfortunately, that is the key cause due to which talent is getting stagnated. I would like to share many instances where an employee who, after serving the company for 5 years, realized that he should have left after serving the company for 6 months. Because when he compared himself with the global landscape, he came to know that he could not acquire the skills to keep himself abreast with the latest technological trends. Now, I won't blame that individual as a whole. That is where our companies need to think about. And especially the people who are sitting in the C-suite. Even myself, I mean, after serving the IT industry for over a decade and serving at the head of department for a multinational company headquartered in the US, I must say that the inculcation of the thought process within the mindset of our IT talent, that is still missing in Pakistan. We have compared ourselves with India. I must say that many years ago, when India was generating $142 billion annually, and at that point, I believe we were at 12 or $14 billion. It is not owing to the fact that they were making the right policy. The companies had the desired support from the government, and we were focusing on war on terror. No, that's not the only reason. I must say that we must be giving credit to the senior leadership of the IT organizations within India, that they inculcated that desired mindset within the youth, due to which the likes of Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, who belong to the middle class of India, they went on to become the CEOs of Googles and Microsofts. And the irony here is we don't even have a single example within Pakistan. So something is going wrong. And as for all the problems which we have discussed right now, yes, those are problems. It is a blessing that we have such people who realize that such problems exist and they need to be resolved. But those problems will take time. The thing which we can do it right now is let's start bringing the desired culture of empowerment within the IT organizations, regardless of the person who got educated from Hyderabad board, who got educated from FAST, who got educated from virtual university or NUMS. I believe that desired culture of empowerment will bring the talent which we want, and that can bring the change in Pakistan.
As we have very helpful. There's a few things I just want to point out. Absolutely, like we I didn't want to bring it up. That's if you brought up the point. There is this culture that might kind of hurting us from reliability standpoint, from cybersecurity perspective. We did an external subject that and that like when I have spoken to international investors or people that I before, they were like, you think there is no guarantee that our data will be safe. Anybody can go access it.
right? And it's the same to India, by the way. Yeah, they just have a better name. But the thing is, I was in the Amazon PC2 workshop. This community interactive with he said the exact same thing, that in our region, where I want to trust, right? These super to be specifically from the definition. Yeah, so this is definitely better shift that needs to happen. But second, having worked very closely with PC detectives in Canada, I think so the Pakistani mindset, or at least the Muslim, let's call it detectives, that if you reach from reversal series, if you reach high enough, right? You have some say, people put their small business and is it the market. So when you say that there, and in India, the mindset seems to be you should reach the highest career ladder possible. No matter what. So I respectfully sort of disagree that adequate having senior Indians that will influence is much more wider than it is, right? With a yes or no, the boss who is the butcher, and they tend to get promotions. And the fact that the writer is coming to abroad, that's where I personally see too. So it's there. I keep it inside a path, then you go to the Reddit post, you go to the interview, you just listen. You listen to the developer officers of an interview and that of the Rawalpindi. The sort of mindset that they have, within India and within I personally see it as different. So one, we support different atmosphere as you have said that needs to change. And second, we do have an entrepreneurial mindset with that soon. I see that we have a business mindset. It is a real business department. Yeah, that seems to be the majority of everybody wants to get into. And I think one, we should promote it, two, we should try to do well. That seems right. Thank you.
Just to complement what you just said, I would like to share my personal experience briefly. I was serving for one of the Fortune 500 companies in the past, where we were working in a geographically dispersed environment. And in a team, we had members from India, Pakistan, Philippines, and US. And I would like to tell you that from my personal experience, I found the talent of Pakistan to be the best. Because when it came to meeting the deadlines, bringing the right solution, or being inquisitive at the right point, so I found Pakistanis to be better at least than Indians. But amongst the senior leadership, there were lots and lots of Indians sitting and making all the policies and structures, but there was no single Pakistani. So I went on to discuss it with the senior management of Pakistan. So they told me that this is something which many else have observed. And there are only two reasons for that. That firstly, Indians have built the desired culture of empowerment, they support each other. If one Indian reaches to the top, he tries that more and more Indians come and perform well, so they can reach the level. But unfortunately, that is missing within Pakistan. Secondly, on the other hand, Pakistanis are more focused towards sustainability rather than growth. Maybe due to the mindset. I believe that is, I would take it as a collateral damage. That once you build that sort of culture where employees are suppressed, so they focus more on sustainability rather than growth. But on the contrary, Indians are not like that. And that is why they are continuously progressing. But maybe at this stage, we as a nation are stagnating.
They're very collaborative. They strengthen each other, whereas we're just playing as one. We don't want other person to go beyond us. And we're just giving a lot of opportunities that we can give to others.
Just like take 5 seconds, can we respectfully as a nation, please talk to the concept to India? I would be very grateful because the recent conflict, as you learn from differences, is not that really there. But TCAT, money, we get converted fast, TCAT into the money. TCAT, and they can handle it where we want to be. There's a huge difference. My best friends, most of my best friends in the UK were actually Indians. They were Pakistani because of the and all that stuff. They can happy that to be happy. There is a humongous culture difference, and we tend to be the scrappy, we understand it to be scrappy after all. Let's change our mindset quite a bit. And it needs to be, as I said before, is now people are broader ambassadors, treat them as such, train them as such, send them abroad, copy the policies of China, of South Korea, Japan, of Malaysia, right? Rather than focusing on them, because they seem to be very focused on us, especially after 6 months. So, why are, respectfully, why give them this airtime? Why give them the rent free space in Quebec? I would respectfully ask them to stop doing that. We have different way of doing things, like that is just. Yeah, we don't need to follow them their data center hub, we keep following jobs of Punyan, बहुत अच्छी बात है, direct AI काम सारा कुछ छोड़ दे काम पे बैठ। ठीक है, we are just starting there, it is easily available. ठीक है, we need to build our own ecosystem. There is a huge shift. So I cover financial markets and geopolitics as well. So there's a huge shift coming in BRICS. I don't know if you can, if you know. Okay, there is an initiative going on to between half of Asia. Okay, and India, as much as it somehow managed to keep itself out of it, good class. Use that advantage. Okay, this is an advantage you're going to get to the next slide. Okay, I would respectfully ask everybody to utilize this particular channel. Separate yourself from this mindset of India's dash. It's all out of the dash. Thank you.
Yes, I certainly agree with you that we shouldn't restrict ourselves towards comparing ourselves with India. But to some extent, it does make sense because both countries have started together. And in many countries where we are having this geographically dispersed environment, you might know better that many Pakistanis are reporting to Indians. So that's where this thought process originates. That why Indians are at this particular stage and why not us. But I certainly agree with you that we should be comparing ourselves with China as well, following the 5-year plan of North Korea, which was the 5-year plan of Pakistan once, but they went on to become a much developed state than us. So, but on the whole, what I would like to say is that what we need to make sure is that the horizon of the youth is broadened. They shouldn't be restricted to some one particular point. And this calls for a change in, you can say, on the society as a whole. The current situation calls for a paradigm shift. We as a society need to change ourselves. We need to encourage each other. We need to build the culture of empowerment. We need to have a growth-oriented mindset rather than purely focusing on sustainability. Let's focus on growth. If we as a society change ourselves, then all the problems which we discussed all together, time after time, all of them will get resolved. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll be very quick in, there's one thing. They're very opinions about government or Pakistan.
In Pakistan. In Pakistan.
So that's okay for companies if they have that term. For example, startups within Pakistan, because if you give it a decision, we could focus there. So I don't know the time we got on the upgraded.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. There's one last question that I would like to ask all of you. What are the untapped tech verticals in Pakistan that young entrepreneurs should seriously explore today? If it's looking for a young founder sitting there, what are the things that, how should they break into Pakistan's tech space, and what will be one piece of advice that you would like?
Right, so I've said this marketing startup and I mentioned the meetings, the meetups, and I'm going to just repeat it here. Everybody has this mindset of becoming a C-suite executive, manager, whatever. Drive partnerships and drive trust. I've met 15 startups, the same idea infused to you're wasting resources, you're wasting time, and most of you are looking to pitch. However, collaborating, saving resources, sharing ideas to be a problem.
I think, firstly, you should be very open to the changing world, which means looking very carefully as how things are changing, especially in the space of content and AI. Focus on skills. Skill is something that will take you a long way. And the skills should also evolve based on how the world is changing. Definitely be in the content, entertainment, and AI space. And overlap, this will definitely help them to sustain as well as grow in terms of financial and economical terms. Okay, here, like, the one of the main, I think, I heard, like, in my, more than a decade journey, when you're doing the product, like, the product is your kid, your product and all of that stuff. So I personally believe that the entrepreneur payment was, अगर मेरे बच्चे को criticize करेगा, so definitely my emotions will be engaged, but I will never take it positive. But when it comes to the product, so the food I criticize that I am, but if I consider it to my babies, I will never take that particular and positive. If I will keep it as a product and for criticism with a positive, you will not have any criticism information of your product, so at least that is for punish करता है, क्योंकि take it as a positive. जैसी चीजें कि conventional जो आजकल businesses के अंदर एक काफी special में है AI is coming. AI is getting the conventional business. So for example, even the AI is a solution we have for the big corporate where they can daily for a job, just put your job identity. So AI will not replace their intelligence. Whatever intelligence, क्योंकि AI की respect है, programming करेंगे, whatever intelligence, will replace करेंगे, जो without AI या technical skills not very okay. So adaptation is a key. For example, in the services, as we know, AI is coming and doing the programming. So generally, like the conventional server will be in place in the server. You have to find protein, so the AI comes to expert following task, you have programming area. And these are just some adaptation mindset and need particularly upcoming entrepreneurs which will be next technical after you.
To add personally, I really like that to do partnerships, and that is what I did when I started my startup. I had my wonderful business partner, my sitting right there. And what that does is it really has like this collaborative synergy, and we're both able to bring a lot of things in terms of knowledge, in terms of our network to the table. Another the verticals that you were talking about, high impact vertical that's usually overlooked, that I briefly talked about earlier, was that we put a lot of effort on the student facing NICAT. But we don't put enough effort or not at all on the educator side of NICAT. So it's about training the trainers or training the teachers where we need to put our focus on, because that one teacher is then responsible for 100 students for so many years. So that knowledge is just amplified and it exponentially grows. So that's the high impact vertical that if somebody's trying to start something, they can look. Thank you.
I think being resilient is extremely important because if you're starting anything, there's no work. You have to face the you can't compare your chapter one with some of the chapter, then you have to go through with it. Maybe some of the mentors, some of the seniors, alumni experience can help you reach that earlier, but I think it's important. Secondly, I think childhood is a very important point that you have to take feedback very well. Whatever is coming, because this is normal, the practice in Pakistan and from whatever they have a although otherwise, if you look at US or the other ecosystems, they enter and they exit, they enter and they exit. If they don't enter, they will change our engaged with other one. Thirdly, I think अमीर होने से डरना नहीं चाहिए हम पाकिस्तान में डरते हैं अमीर होने से हम मुझसे इधर लगते हैं थोड़ा रिलीजियस टच किया जाता है हम बस साइड किया जाती है बस इतना चाहिए जितना हमारे चल रहा है ज़्यादा तो चल रहा है if you are interested to be you have to come up with the next level आपके सामने है जिसको below that level तो उससे डराने से
I have two things. So amazing conversation was going on, and I was loving myself. Two things I would like to add, and number one, as we need to think that So that's the number one thing of success. If we cannot think of doing anything big, we cannot achieve that. And then number two is, as Kunjana said, is consistency. We need to pick that up. These two things can be take us anywhere. Thanks.
So my advice to the Gen Zs of today, whom I find much more competent, inquisitive, and innovative than us, is that please practice patience. Because in this era of digitization, where change is the only constant, and where we have so many challenges at the national level, so be patient. Don't let impatience counter your skill set. With patience, success will come, and through that, you will eventually do. So this is something which I would like to advise the youth of today.
So much everyone for sharing your thoughts. Now we have some questions from the audience for being here today.
My name is Subir. I am from Tech. Basically, I have three questions. Very
Can we have only one?
just part of this. This is the second. First question मेरा ये है कि जब मैं मतलब स्किल बेस्ड स्किल देने वाले पाकिस्तान में बहुत लोग हैं फ्री में कोर्सेज करवा रहे हैं फ्री में बहुत कुछ है तो स्किल मैंने दे दी उसके बाद मेरे पास चैनल इतने हैं सिर्फ तो या तो मैं जॉब कर लूँ या मैं फ्रीलांसिंग करूँ फ्रीलांसिंग के लिए कुछ खास किस्म को प्लेटफॉर्म है जिन पे जाके मैं अपनी 2-3 महीने 4 महीने ट्राई करूँ चल गया तो ठीक है ना चला तो खराब मतलब दूसरी चीज ये है कि आप इंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की तरफ लोग इस तरह के अपने एक बंदा मतलब वो आ रहा है वो सिर्फ 2 चीजों को ट्राई कर सकता है इंटरप्रेन्योर कैसे करें तीसरी चीज ये है कि जब आप मेरा दूसरा क्वेश्चन है वो ये है कि जब आप कोई सॉफ्टवेयर परचेज करने जाते हैं तो आप बाहर से परचेज कर लेते हैं मतलब जो अच्छा चल रहा है मार्केट में है जो आपको पता है मेरा बिजनेस ठीक चलेगा आप भी परचेज करेंगे मतलब आप किसी के ऊपर ट्रस्ट नहीं करेंगे तीसरी चीज मेरे ऊपर यह है कि जो मेरा तीसरा क्वेश्चन है एआई के बारे में सर कह रहे थे कि सारे जो है मतलब खत्म हो जाएगी मतलब जॉब्स एआई को कोई टैकल कर दें कोई नहीं लेकिन हम इस तरह की नहीं सोचते कि यार देखो हमारे पास डॉक्टर्स कम है तो हम कुछ ऐसा करें कि जो डॉक्टर्स मतलब पहले एक डॉक्टर जो था एआई के बगैर 10 पेशेंट को ट्रीट कर रहा था वो एआई के साथ अब आपके पास 100 डॉक्टर हैं कुछ ज्यादा से ज्यादा पेशेंट को नहीं ट्रीट करते मतलब कि एक पेशेंट से अगर 10 मिनट लगते हैं तो एआई से आपका टाइम आसान हो रहा है आप ज्यादा लोगों को नहीं टाइम
So I'll be very quick to give a short time. So मेरा जो आपने कहा था तो I made it people as well. ठीक है and very brutal and just to learn. ठीक है तो कुछ बनाते हो गए. So I'm going to answer exactly what this अंदर आप देखो. आज इसके लिए जैसे साइबर में ये है कि गेम डेवलपमेंट में ये चीज़ होती है. आपको first of all कोई उनका डेटा बनाने से अपना डिजाइन बनाने से सिर्फ होनी की बनाना चाहिए मेरी इंटरप्रेनेurship क्लास के अंदर एक मुझे बात सिखाई है 6 AM and 6 PM ठीक है तो आप अगर सुबह या शाम जो भी आपको फ्री टाइम देना है 1 घंटा है you can make the game make the design make a software make a script make a post something एक तो आपका नाम लगे पड़ता है आपके पास सिर्फ जॉब है कि make your business है you freelance से ये चीज I think there's four reasons more for it. The UK has a shortage of cybersecurity as well as other positions. ठीक है तो एक मीटिंग की सकते हैं ठीक है अगर adding on to this ये अच्छा मुझे आपको सेकंड पॉइंट जो समझ नहीं आया मतलब इसके बोल रहा लेकिन जो थर्ड पर्सपेक्टिव था कि AI है and why can we speed everything up ये is a big culture as we are sitting in Islam ठीक है
we have an understanding with a certain level of knowledge, we're not, it is not going to just be the same religion they are in whatever. उन्होंने ये डॉक्टर साहब से मिलना, उन्होंने नर्सेस से नहीं मिलना, उन्होंने एआई से नहीं मिलना, ठीक है? एक मिलने वाली बात सेकंड प्रिस्क्रिप्शन where I don't want to go into much details. You don't know how AI thinks. We happily did publish here very recently. They're not entirely there about it. Nobody knows how AI thinks. You don't know what mistakes AI will make. I exploited AI power to make AI better. I can tell you that AI doesn't know what it's talking about usually. It uses statistical percentages to estimate an answer. And by the way, मैंने टेस्ट करके देखा, टेस्ट को देखें, कोई भी मल्टीप्लिकेशन को बड़ी दवाई ना, उसके इंग्रेडिएंट के साथ सिर्फ उसको चैट जीपीटी को तस्वीर ये नॉट को दे दी, स्टोर को दे दी. Sometimes they add in ingredients, and sometimes they remove them. ठीक है, उनका understand, you can give feedback. अब ये हम सोच रहे हैं पेशेंट के साथ पहले हम इसको फॉर एग्जांपल maybe इसको हाइपरटेंशन Orders भी हो, diabetes भी हो, बहुत सारी जो चीजें हम give them the right and उनका heart attack हो जाए, बेहोश हो जाए, सब death हो जाए, तो we will respond. ठीक है, so doctor or an engineer or anybody else, they can also say मैंने तो AI use किया था, ये उनका solution. ठीक है, फिर अगर किसी को कुछ हो जाए, building देना है, कुछ हो जाए, because these cases have occurred. ये हो भी पाया है, आपके साथ जल्दी very good level control. So, one is culture, two is the trust, three is the technical. Okay, so let's start on that. Thank you so much.
So, thanks a lot for coming. I am also cybersecurity expert and cyber crime journalist. My question is आपसे ये सवाल है जिसमें चीज पर पूरा साल से cyber crime में एक चीज देखकर awareness नहीं create करने के लिए हमारे जो लोग हैं ना political systems को नहीं समझ पा रहे. Business capability of the systems है वो जब they don't know how to recover. Even if मैं example दूँगी 8 साल की इंग्लैंड की बच्ची है उसका WhatsApp और within a second 5 minutes recover कर दिया. But unfortunately अपने पाकिस्तान को ले लो जहाँ पे बड़े हो जाते हैं उनको awareness नहीं है. उसमें अब ये है तो मुझे आपको पता है AI को दूर है और साइबर सिक्योरिटी को दूर है. मैं वो वाक्य जो कह रही थी कि बहुत मशीनों की हुकूमत है साथ ही प्रगत तो चल देते हैं आपको कि हमें कॉलेज स्टूडेंट बात में AI नहीं आता. अगर अभी हम AI को साइबर सिक्योरिटी को नहीं समझेंगे तो आपको ऐसी न्यूज़ बता सकते हैं ऑडियंस को भी लेकिन अभी यू रियलाइज दिस थिंग वो सेक्शन तो ये बता दो लोगों को कि वो किस तरीके से AI और साइबर सिक्योरिटी नहीं समझ because as the master is speaking.
No, sorry.
साइबर सिक्योरिटी के बारे में आप कोई जो ऑडियंस है उनको बता सकते हो कि साइबर सिक्योरिटी कैसे इनको पता चलेगी सिक्योरिटी हर चीज की मस्ट एविडेंस होता है तो ये कैसे बात ये अवेयर हो दिस आई एम एक्सपर्ट आई नो वेरी वेल can you explain it from this identify the problem this one
अच्छा the issue I know it's so difficult to answer. So first of all, the reason why I'm reading a better state goes against the action. Because my family and parents software development for videos dependent often the antivirus software अगर computer नाम मुझे तो ठीक मानना नहीं ठीक है so it is the culture of it. So again this is another point I didn't want to bring up. लेकिन since you asked the question very quickly, first of all by an antivirus there are pop-ups do not uninstall the antivirus because this has happened and around about $50 million की company went down for 4 days. Even with the CEO did like the antivirus pop-ups. Okay. Second, for example, you talk about geopolitics, there's even a defense podcast and how many cybersecurity podcasts are there? There's not. Exactly. So I'm trying to start one up. There are only one like 4 other podcasts going on. You can push it but the thing is, it's not good. There are, as I said, earlier, that kids in the early age, they should be getting cyber skills and game skills and whatever else, they should have access to these because this needs to be effort from the ground up. Pure culture को बैठ के you can't have a jump with it. You will lose. So my tips are download trusted software. ठीक है don't delete it, maybe even pay for it, however you do it, but not do the cracked version sort of thing. Even the games, they are cheaper, even the software, they are cheaper for Pakistan, they chalta use open source alternative. I always push it, people start using games wherever possible, and then नहीं मतलब virtual box से पूरा build करने, maybe to technical, okay? So, that's pretty much it, don't mess around, thank you.
Thank you so much.
मेरा एक क्वेश्चन, एक छोटे से क्वेश्चन, तीन क्वेश्चन है। पहले तो मैडम गुजर बताया कि पाकिस्तान में डरना नहीं चाहिए अमीर होने से, करता तो नहीं सिर्फ उठाए जा से बचने जलवान हो गए। और दूसरी बात है कि हमारे साथ मानते थे कि बेटा दोस्ती पुरानी अच्छी होती है और टेक्नोलॉजी नई अच्छी होती है, लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ कि आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस हम ह्यूमन बीइंग्स के लिए खतरा नहीं है। क्या ये वो एलियंस नहीं है जो इस दुनिया में आ गए, क्योंकि मिसयूज बहुत हो रहा है। मैं समझता हूँ कि ये तो आप समझ रहे कि कैनवस में देख रहे हैं टेक्नोलॉजी को, लेकिन अगर आप सोशल मीडिया पे जाएं जो आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को इस्तेमाल करके जो कंटेंट आ रहा है, जो वहाँ पे मवाद शेयर किया जा रहा है, जो चीज़ें इस सोसाइटी में फैलाई जा रही हैं, वो हम किसको ब्लेम करेंगे, वो हम किसको जिम्मेदार करेंगे कि इसके पीछे कौन है? एक आम आदमी का एक बेटा, दो बेटा, 10 बेटे होते हैं, 4 बेटे होते हैं, बच्चे होते हैं। अब एक जो AI को डील कर रहा है या उसमें एक्सपर्ट है, वो पीछे मतलब कितने सेटअप चला रहा है AI से रिलेटेड, उसकी कितनी औलादें हैं, उस औलाद से जितना जो उसको सारा कुछ आज करके दे रही है, तो क्या ये हमारी सोसाइटी के लिए एक खतरा है? दूसरी बात जो मैं हमारी बात हम रन कर रहे हैं, तो हम सोच रहे थे हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जाए इस हवाले से कि जो भी आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस एक बंदा या एक पर्सन आता है इस दुनिया में, इस आईटी के दौर में, तो वो रजिस्टर्ड होना चाहिए, उसकी कोई एंटिटी होनी चाहिए। जैसे आम आदमी की CNI है तो उसका केस CNI होना चाहिए, कल उसको भी जिम्मेदार कराया जाए कि उसने क्या नफा किया है, क्या नुकसान किया है।
अच्छा, देखिए, एक तो ये चीज़ है कि AI बिल्कुल एक ऐसी टेक्नोलॉजी है जो जारी है, आप कह सकते हैं कि ये वर्किंग ऑन दस, ठीक है, हमारी कंपनी का लोगों की जो है वो आउल के उस पर है, क्योंकि अपेरेंटली इट इज इंटेलिजेंट बर्ड, और ये जहाँ जाता है वहाँ मिलाना जाता है, अगर आने को है दैट इज द कॉन्सेप्ट। लेकिन बात ये है कि ये है, you cannot close your eyes, so that's the thing, मतलब आप ये नहीं कर सकते कि हम नहीं करेंगे, हमारी करना, तो you have to do it, ये अब आपकी मजबूरी है, मतलब एटॉमिक बॉम्ब आपकी मजबूरी है, मतलब this is something that the now अमेरिका wants कि यार हम करते रहे, कोई और ना करे, बस तो ये नहीं करना हम लोगों ने, किसी ट्रैप के अंदर हम लोग नहीं यूज करते। और जहाँ तक बात है आपकी डिजिटल आईडी वाली, तो ये डिजिटल आईडी ऑलरेडी पाकिस्तान के जो डिजिटल इनिशिएटिव चल रहा है का, उसके अंदर यूनिवर्स की ऑल अक्रॉस पाकिस्तान आपका से नेक्स्ट डिजिटल आईडी की तरफ वो जा रहे हैं, उसके अंदर कैटेगराइजेशन वैसे ही हो जाएगी, लेकिन दिस इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू ट्रैक कि आपकी AI का फंडा है। सो बेसिकली रिस्पॉन्सिबल AI, नॉन रिस्पॉन्सिबल AI किस तरीके से करना है, इट इज गोइंग टू बी right now, सेक्रेटरी आईटी से भी बात हुई थी, तो we didn't want कि अभी गवर्नमेंट इसको रेगुलेट करे, right now it's not the time to regulate, right now it's the time to expand and explore, क्योंकि आप रेगुलेट करेंगे तो चीजें रुकेंगी, अभी ऑटोमेटिकली आपके पास रेगुलेशन आएंगी, दुनिया को इस पर भी बहुत ज्यादा काम कर रही है। और दूसरा जैसे पहले वाला भी सवाल था साइबर सिक्योरिटी का, तो इट्स नॉट कि हम खाली मतलब ओपन है, यूएस पूरा फ्रॉड हो रहा है डेली बेसिस के ऊपर, ठीक है, उनका हमसे बहुत ही बुरा हाल है। सो इवेंचुअली टाइम लगेगा, चीजें टाइम के साथ आती हैं, इससे पहले AI मुझे भी समझ नहीं आता था, समझ आना शुरू हो गया, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता आपको भी समझ आ रहा है, तो थिंग्स टेक टाइम और अपने टाइम पे चीजें हो रही है।
जो भी गलती पाकिस्तान बहुत सी चीजों में बीच में, तो अगर AI को भी अडाप्ट नहीं करेंगे तो ये भी टाइम और
Yes, and just to put some more icing on the cake, which Kadir made for us. As there is a famous saying, somewhat like there is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Similarly, technology itself is not good or bad, but how we utilize it, it defines whether it is good or bad. Similarly, if I talk about generative artificial intelligence in particular, so it depends how are we utilizing it. I would like to tell you why I find it productive. Because within the IT field, when I was serving as a business analyst, whenever we used to develop a new product, we had to meet a lot of stakeholders, capture their interests. We had to transform them into different business and functional specifications. Then there used to be a POC phase. But with the advent of generative AI, we realized that that was pretty mundane or mundane boring stuff. Now, with generative AI, we can expedite that sort of an effort because if we try to understand how large language models work, if we are good prompt engineers, we are going to give them the input. They are going to tell us that what sort of scenarios we need to have, what sort of business requirements we should be getting, and ultimately how should we develop that particular software. But if we are allowing generative AI to replace our intelligence, then of course it's bad. But in that case, we won't blame generative AI, but ourselves. And there are lots of stories to share which we can do during that networking session.
Thank you. Good, very good. I just like to say, from a cultural perspective, because I have been asked very deep everything. We have another name for our country, it's called Pakistan. Okay? And it is one of the most destructive things that we have to do to ourselves. Everything we end up regulating. Yeah, and what I it causes barriers to entry. And it believes against this perspective that rather than having the freedom to explore this sort of thing, there were no regulations when this entire area of Pakistan conflict happened. What was the response of our state? They unlocked X. Yeah, because they had that understanding, they very yes, this is what and I was at Fulford after the moment going to weekend. They exploded building two areas, this area, this area, all the edge in it. हमारी ग्राउंड को 10 सेकंड so those might be aware because we're actually on accelerated point be let's say it educated as well as people might be affected by this. This thing is as I said, US, Canada, UK, all these are going to this. So rather than us taking this initiative, let us be because the companies my exposure to the government board has told me कि जो भी फॉरेन में स्ट्रगल होती है ना उनको रेगुलेट करना तो आती है लेकिन जैसे कहता है on the table it's a head so they have headache we need more drink money they won't come here they don't see you say that they don't want to take this but the thing is rather than us taking the leadership that these countries will probably base then they're taking the leadership and then by the way who is talking Pakistan from the old AI and taking it to the startups. Old people in the general market, how do you charge you to generate models of free to have good at use? So, and the thing is, make it a PDA, make it a GCC, whatever. Rather than balance that, fire to find a solution that benefits the people and stops them. There are projects being made that are literally formatting first use. So we have the AMG return was not responsible. That's part of the base of Pakistan. They want to learn about it. Even I know their business. Okay, so the thing is, find a solution, find a pathway that can give us innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing all your stories. It was such an interesting conversation. I'm sure everyone sitting here must have gained something from here. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Tariq Khan on stage. He is a senior civil servant with over 30 years of experience in communication and administration. He has led key national institutions like the Press Information Department, Associated Press of Pakistan, Directorate of Electronic Media and Publications, and Information Service, and he holds a PhD in communication and photographs scholars at the State University. Please welcome you on stage.
Thank you very much. इस प्रोग्राम को इवेंट का आइडिया कुछ इस तरह है कि सभी आया मेरे पास और हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि एलायंस के लिए आगे एक्टिविटीज कैसे की जाए तो सभी ने आइडिया फ्लोट किया कि क्यों ना हम इंटरनेशनल और ग्लोबल जायंट्स को पाकिस्तान में लाए वेरी लॉफ्टी टारगेट आई थिंक तो उसी से जब हम ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग करते गए तो हमें एहसास हुआ कि जो बहुत बेसिक चीजें हैं वो नहीं है तो ये कैसे मतलब मुमकिन होगा कि हम किसी ग्लोबल जाइंट को इनवाइट करें और वो उधर आ जाए हमारे कहने। तो दिस इवेंट वाज एक्चुअली दिस आइडिया इससे निकला कि क्यों ना हम एक बेस पहले थोड़ी सी बना लें कि हम इस काबिल हो जाएं कि कम से कम इस फील्ड में के ग्लोबल जाइंट्स को पता चले कि पाकिस्तान भी मैप पे कोई चीज है, उधर भी कोई इस किस्म की कन्वर्सेशन हो रही है और दे वुड लाइक टू जॉइन दोस कन्वर्सेशन। तो यहाँ पे बहुत सी तो दिस वाज द आइडिया बिहाइंड दिस इवेंट व्हिच वी वुड बी इंशाल्लाह कंटिन्यूइंग इन द फ्यूचर। अब इधर बहुत ज्यादा बातें हुई हैं, दो पर्सपेक्टिव होते हैं। पहले तो एक ब्रॉड पर्सपेक्टिव होता है जो कि इसमें थोड़ा सा मिसिंग था। जिसका सोशियोलॉजिस्ट है बहुत बड़ा इकोनॉमी का कंसेप्ट उसने दिया और जो बहुत पॉपुलर हुआ सोशियोलॉजी में बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़ाया जाता रहा 200 साल, और मार्क्स ने भी उस पर बहुत लिखा। इकोनॉमी का कॉन्सेप्ट ये था कि उसने कहा कि चूंकि इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आ गया है तो पुराने जितने बॉन्ड और नॉर्म थे वो टूट गए, जो ट्रेडिशनल कन्वेंशनल फ्यूडल सोसाइटी के यूरोप में। तो उसने कहा कि एक नॉर्मलेसनेस की सिचुएशन है कि नॉर्म कोई नहीं है, सिटीज बन रही हैं, जंगल उग रहे हैं। उसने बाकायदा उस पर इसको कहा कि मतलब chaos की इकोनॉमी की टर्म में नॉर्मलेसनेस उससे बहुत। तो वो किसी हद तक सोसाइटीज ने थ्रू इन 200 सालों में इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन को एक तरह से एब्जॉर्ब कर लिया और नॉर्मलाइज थोड़ी सी चीजें हो गई प्लेसमेंट में। जितनी भी कि इवन हमारी एग्रीकल्चर सोसाइटी में उस दिन कोई बात कर रहा था कि मेरी लाइफ में इतनी चेंजेस आई हैं, प्रेशर से लेके हल और ट्यूबवेल्स तक के अगर मैं गिवाने लगूँ तो वो उनको शुमार नहीं कर सकता, इतनी चेंजेस है एक मेरी लाइफ एक दोस्त बात करें। तो ये इतनी तेजी के साथ हुआ, लेकिन जैसे भी था वो एग्जॉर्ब हो गया, वो एग्जॉर्ब हो गया। हम एक रिस्पॉन्सिव जो है वो नेचुरल अंदाज में से कि अचानक ही 30 साल पहले ये रेवोल्यूशन जो डिजिटल आया इसने दोबारा जॉइन कर दिया पूरी और उसी कैफियत में ले गए जिस तरह 20th सेंचुरी या 19th सेंचुरी की ग्लोबल सोसाइटी थी कि नॉर्मलेसनेस और ये कैफियत थी, वही कैफियत तकरीबन अभी भी हो गई है कि हमें समझ नहीं आ रहा, माँ बाप को समझ नहीं आ रहा कि हम क्या करें, बच्चों को समझ नहीं आ रहा क्या करें। वो बेसिक इतना ओवरवेलमिंग है इंफॉर्मेशन का फ्लो और चीजें इतनी बर्निंग है कि किसी की समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि इसको कैसे रिस्पॉन्ड। तो इस पे लिखा जा चुका है बहुत। आई लाइक जस्ट टू ब्रीफली मेंशन इफ यू रे पोर्ट्सवाल एक्ट में से किसी ने सुना होगा, मेरे तो एकेडमिक का बैकग्राउंड है सो बियर विद मी, मैं थोड़े रेफरेंसेस स्कॉलरली ज्यादा तरफ नेचर इन माइंड होता है। पोर्ट्सवाल कहता है कि जो बायोलॉजिकल तरीका था एवोल्यूशन का वो स्टॉप हो गया, फर्दर एवोल्यूशन जो है वो बायोलॉजी के जरिए नहीं, फर्दर एवोल्यूशन होगी डिजिटल और माइंड के। और ये इस पे वो इस हद तक कहता है कि 2045 तक का उसका है, इतना दूर नहीं है, शायद हम मोस्ट ऑफ अस कुड ऑब्वियसली नो लाइफ ऐसी कि और जिसके साथ इस वक्त एआई के जो बड़े एक्सपर्ट्स हैं वो एग्री भी कर रहे हैं कि 2045 तक ह्यूमन एआई एजेंट्स ऐसे क्रिएट हो जाएंगे जो विजिबली नॉर्मल ह्यूमन बीइंग से ज्यादा इंटेलिजेंट। और इसी चीज को दिस इज जस्ट वन एस्पेक्ट कि ये हो रहा है और हमें समझ नहीं आ रही कि हमने कैसे इसको रिस्पॉन्ड करना है, या जो मशीन मुझसे ज्यादा इंटेलिजेंट होकर मेरे साथ बातें कर रही होगी। दूसरा इसके एक्सपेक्ट है जो कि अगेन बहुत से आप जाहिर इस फील्ड से हैं, सब जानते होंगे कि बहुत से एआई एक्सपर्ट्स ने कहा है कि नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जो डेवलपमेंट की है वो एआई पर्सनल एजेंट्स की, जो कि आपके बिहाफ पे काम कर रहा, आपकी बुकिंग करवा रहा होगा, आपके बिजनेस डील करवा रहा होगा, आपके लिए लॉयर से बात कर रहा होगा, आपकी जगह कोर्ट में जाके बात कर रहा होगा। वो एक तरह से आपका पर्सनल असिस्टेंट होगा जिसको आपने डायरेक्शन तो दी होंगी और वो उसके मुताबिक उसी पैरामीटर के मुताबिक वो लोगों से, बल्कि दूसरे एआई एजेंट किसी और बंदे का जो एआई एजेंट होगा उसके साथ वो नेगोशिएट कर रहा। तो दिस इज द न्यू लेवल ऑफ डेवलपमेंट जिसकी साथ ही पैरेलल एलन मस्क का आपने सुना होगा कि जो न्यूरल लिंक का कॉन्सेप्ट है कि ये जो हम हाथ में और जेब में लिए फिरते हैं इस झंझट से भी छुटकारा छुटे। फिर बस मैंने ये बात सोच ही लिया और वो जाके कंप्यूटर तक पहुंच गई है और वो कंप्यूटर में उसको वही जो पर्सनल एजेंट की बात करें कि पर्सनल एजेंट को मतलब मुझे बोलना भी ना पड़े, पर्सनली मैं सोचूं और बस वो काम कर। तो दैट इज द नेक्स्ट लेवल ऑफ थिंग जो इसी तरह बेशुमार चीजें हैं, आप इससे वाकिफ हैं, इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स है, क्वांटम कंप्यूटिंग है, जो कि तो सोसाइटी का नक्शा बिल्कुल टोटली चेंज होने जा रहा है, जिस तरह कोर्सोल कहता है आइंदा आने वाले कुछ सालों में। हम उसके लिए अब किस हद तक तैयार हैं, दिस वी हैव टू सी। क्योंकि हम जिस तरह जमीनी हक़ाइक़ पे इधर बातें हुई हैं, कुछ आप लोगों ने कही है, कुछ की तरफ मैं थोड़ा आपकी तवज्जो दिला दूंगा कि हम इधर हेल्थ की बात हुई, बहुत अच्छा बात है कि इधर काफी डाइवर्स पैनल था, हेल्थ की भी बात हुई, एजुकेशन की भी बात हुई, गेमिंग की भी बात हुई, सिक्योरिटी की भी बात हुई कि हम इस्लामाबाद में रहते हैं, कराची में, लाहौर में कुछ कुछ सेंटर हैं जिधर ये एक्सेलेंस की चीज़ें हैं। अब बात कर रहे थे कि अगर एक और साहब ने भी बात की कि हेल्थ के हवाले से जो जनरली इस वक्त हमारा ट्रेंड है टाउन्स में और जो छोटे टाउन्स हैं या छोटे शहर हैं वो बहुत ज्यादा दूर है, सिवाय इसके कि हम इसे एक कम्युनिकेशन टूल के तौर पे यूज कर रहे हैं, जो कि काफी प्रिवेंट है। वो भी अगर था मतलब दुनिया से बहुत नीचे है हमारी पेनिट्रेशन मोबाइल की कंपेयर टू अदर वर्ल्ड, जो दुनिया है उसके मुकाबले में बहुत कम है। लेकिन जैसे भी है चले, हम एक कम्युनिकेशन के तौर पर मोबाइल फोन होता है वो से यूज करें, लेकिन इसके अलावा मशीन को या इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी को या फिर दैट मैटर अभी एआई को कैसे यूज करना है, 90% हमारी सोसाइटी तो कोई लेना देना है। वो रह रही हैं, वो वही क्लिनिक्स हैं, वो वही स्कूल्स हैं, वो वही ट्रांसपोर्ट है, वो मतलब है उसमें उसमें कोई ऐसा सिग्निफिकेंट चेंज नहीं आई। और अगर आपने उसमें लानी है और वाकई ये तरस कीजिए, आपने अपने ट्रांसपोर्ट को सारा ले जाना है, एआई पे शिफ्ट करना है या फिर दैट मैटर हेल्थ को करना है। हेल्थ का इधर अभी बातें हो रही थी, बात इधर तक पहुंच गई है कि रिमोट ऑपरेशंस की बातें हुई तो एआई एजेंट्स और इसी तरह ट्रीटमेंट्स की मशीनें पूरी पेशेंट को फुल केयर, ना सिर्फ ये केयर टेकर का बल्कि ऑपरेशंस भी रिमोटली हैंडल करने की बात है। हम इन चीजों से कोसों दूर, हम इसमें मतलब है कि उस लेवल पर जाने तक हमें काफी टाइम लगे। अब मैं आपको उस पर्टिकुलर इशू की तरफ जो इधर थोड़ा सा नेगेटिव हुआ है, नेगेटिव थोड़ा माइंड रहता है कि जैसे नेगेटिव मैंने भी बात की कि टेक्नोलॉजी के मुताबिक के जी ये अच्छी है या बुरी है। अगेन जब इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आया था, रिविट का आपने सुना होगा, अमेरिका में यूरोप में उन्होंने मशीनें दिला दी, उन्होंने कहा ये लीवर है, दजाल का लफ्ज़ यूज किया गया, उन्होंने कह दीजिए दजाल है और ये इसको हमने नहीं छोड़ा। तो ये दजाल है या जो भी है इसने आना है, मतलब है जैसे इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आ गया, दुनिया में छा गया, वही मशीनें को कोई किसी ने क्या खूब कहा कि हमारे यहाँ इधर कोई तबका जो है वो लाउड स्पीकर को शैतानी आला कहते थे, मैंने खुद भी देखे हैं, खुद भी शैतानी आला कहते कहते बिना तो रोटी का काल्पन फिक्रा है कि अब वो उसकी कहता है जान नहीं छोड़ता स्पीकर की। तो ये हाल मतलब है कि यार वो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता हम उसको इस्लामाइज करते चले जाएंगे, हम उसके लिए जवाब ऑब्वियसली रिलीजियस थॉट जो है वो स्टैग्नेट नहीं होता, वो वक्त के साथ डेवलप होता रहता है। तो उसको जो हम वो आना है, मतलब है कि इस चीज़ को हम जितना भी नेगेटिवली कंसिडर करेंगे, हैव टू डील विद इट, इसको डील करना है हमने, बजाय ये कि हम उसको नेगेटिव कंसिडर करें। दूसरी एक बात इधर हुई, आई वुड क्विकली, मैडम ने बात की थी, इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट है गवर्नमेंट के बारे में। गवर्नमेंट का डायलेमा ये होता है कि गवर्नमेंट ने दो सत्ता पे, गवर्नमेंट ने सेक्टर भी डेवलप करना होता है जो आप बता रही थी, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ने क्विक सॉल्यूशंस भी देनी, वो मतलब है कि बैटरी और प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लिए वेट करे कि वो पेशेंट, गवर्नमेंट के पास इतना टाइम नहीं होता, उनके पास थोड़ा टाइम होता है, पब्लिक उनसे डिमांड कर रही होती है, तो वो आ जाते हैं। जैसे आईटी बोर्ड का आपने कहा, आईटी बोर्ड ने ठीक है, जो आपके भी बहुत पढ़े लिखे लोगों से मैंने सुना है कि उसने मार्केट पे जो असर किया नेगेटिवली, लेकिन उसका फायदा ये हुआ कि हमने खुद भी ये गवर्नमेंट सर्विस, मैंने कई उनसे फायदा मैं पंजाब से लोगों को इधर बुलाया है इस्लामाबाद और उनसे इम्प्लीमेंट करवाए, एप्स इम्प्लीमेंट करवाए, उनसे चीज़ें बनवाई। और ये यार सारे पंजाब का है, बल्कि वो पूरे पाकिस्तान में दूसरे सूबों और सेंटर को भी दे रहे होते हैं। तो उन्होंने मतलब गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट की डिजिटाइजेशन उधर वो करते थे। जो मैडम कह रही थी कि ये प्राइवेट सेक्टर से चूंकि कंपटीशन एक होता है, आप उनके साथ कंपटीशन में आ जाते हो प्राइवेट सेक्टर के साथ। और ये सिर्फ एक डिपार्टमेंट नहीं है, कई डिपार्टमेंट्स कई ये था। तो गवर्नमेंट को मेरा मतलब है दोनों चीजें साथ लेके चलना पड़ती है। उन्होंने प्राइवेट सेक्टर भी डेवलप करना होता है, उन्होंने पब्लिक को क्विक सर्विसेज भी प्रोवाइड करना होती है। तो इसी निस्बत से रेगुलेशंस पे बात हुई। फिर अच्छी बात ये है कि मतलब है थोड़े नुआंस अप्रोच है। आप एकदम बहुत ज्यादा रेगुलेशंस भी नहीं ला सकते और बिल्कुल ही किसी चीज को ओपन भी नहीं छोड़ सकते, क्योंकि ना सिर्फ ये कि उसके नेगेटिव होने का खतरा होता है, बल्कि हमारे जो इवन पाकिस्तान में तो जो इंडस्ट्रियल ग्रोथ है उसके पीछे 60s में गवर्नमेंट PIDC गवर्नमेंट का इदारा था, जिसने वो 22 खानदान जो थे मूसी ने बनाए, वो एक तरह से इधर से निकले थे PIDC से जो इंडस्ट्री थी उसमें। तो ये मतलब गवर्नमेंट को ये करना पड़ता है, गवर्नमेंट ऑब्वियसली इसमें ये तो ये थे दिस वाज अ फ्यू थॉट। अच्छा था, बहुत ज्यादा गहराई में इस पे बात हुई। और भी होप एक और जो चीज, स्कोप बहुत ज्यादा है। स्कोप मतलब है इतना है कि हमारा जैसे 3 बिलियन है इस वक्त, गवर्नमेंट ने टारगेट सेट किया है कि कोई 15 बिलियन तक स्कोप है इमीडिएटली हम कुछ सालों में एक्सपोर्ट्स जो हमारे डिजिटल्स हैं वो हम ले जा सकते हैं। 30,000 के करीब तो कोई IT कंपनीज है इस वक्त रजिस्टर्ड, जो कि आराम से लाख तक जा सकते हैं। 30,000 40,000 के करीब पर ईयर हम स्टूडेंट्स पैदा कर रहे हैं, ग्रेजुएट, जो कि अगेन हम 1 लाख तक आराम से ले जा सकते हैं। तो ये बड़े मतलब विजिबल गैप्स हैं जो इस वक्त मौजूद हैं, वो एक्सपोर्ट के हवाले से, वो विल पावर के हवाले जो हम अचीव कर सकते हैं। तो वी आर वेरी होपफुल इंशाल्लाह के पाकिस्तान का जाहिर है, जिस तरह आपने सुना भी अब होगा कि सबसे ज्यादा ग्रोथ जो है वो IT सेक्टर में और उसके डिजिटल उससे हुई है, तो 27-28% के हिसाब से ग्रोथ हुई है बाकी कार्य। तो पोटेंशियल तो इसमें इमेंस पोटेंशियल है, और इसी यही एक रास्ता है आगे बढ़ने का पाकिस्तान को के इसी के थ्रू आगे बढ़े। तो इन द फ्यूचर वी वांट टू एक्सपेंड इंशाल्लाह, इस इवेंट को हम एक्सपेंड करेंगे कि ज्यादा बाहर से भी लोगों को इसमें लाएं, जैसे कि ओरिजिनल आइडिया था। और थोड़ी कन्वर्सेशन ज्यादा हो जाए, जब कोई आएगा देखेगा इधर कन्वर्सेशन में पार्ट लेगा, तो फिर उसका दिन चाहेगा कि शायद कंपनी में भी आए, इन्वेस्टमेंट में भी आए और थिंग्स लाइक दैट। सो वी वुड कंटिन्यू इंशाल्लाह विद दिस प्रोसेस। थैंक यू अगेन फॉर तमाम पैनलिस्ट आने का, और आप हजरात का भी, क्योंकि गर्मी भी है कांवा में, खैर आज तो मौसम थोड़ा बेहतर था, लेकिन एनीवे बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप लोगों के। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful thoughts. I would like to thank Techno and NICAT for organizing this event. Thank you, Mr. Dr. Larek. Thank you to Mr. Salim, who thought about this idea and who put in all of the effort. Thank you for all the team who has worked so hard to make this thing possible. Last but not least, thank you for all the panelists for taking out time. I know it was like 1 hour 30 minutes, but some other time again, thank you so much for staying. And thank you to the audience for coming here, for actually listening to whatever conversation we were having. I hope that you have got some insightful information from here. I think that's all from our panel discussion. Tea will be served in a few minutes. I would like our panelists to stay here for a minute.
Before we go over tea, I would request participants that have pictures with the panelists, please. Yeah, it's sharing our panelists.